Hello gamers, my name is Spark, and today I'm going to show you an awesome one-of-a-kind tool that you can use at your D&D or other TTRPG table. In this video, I'm going to show you a song generator. This is a great tool for GMs who maybe need to determine what a minstrel is singing in the tavern tonight, and this is a great tool for a player who's playing a bard character. Here's how this video is going to go. For starters, I'm going to show you the basics of how this tool works and how you can use it at your table. Then I'm going to show you what's happening behind the scenes to make the generator work and how you can customize it to better fit your campaign. As with all of my generators, there are 4 different sections. There's the generate button that turns it all on, there's the settings, there's the results, and then there's the storage system. So I'm going to show you all 4 of these, and then the second half of the video is going to be about customization. For starters, let's just generate one song, and then that should make explaining the settings more easy. So here we have the Priestess of the Door. That is the name of the song that has been generated. It is a vocal song, and it's a lullaby. So that right there gives you some room to play with as the GM or as the musically inclined player or character to get an idea of what maybe the song might be about. I do give you a little bit of a description for what this particular type of music might sound like. Now for a lullaby, a lot of us may know automatically what a lullaby is, but there are other types of songs in this generator that I had never heard of, and so I thought it would be helpful to put in a little bit of a description for what these songs might be about or sound like or what their theme is. Because this title is in the common tongue, we don't get a translation, but there will be some songs that are in a foreign language, and so we will get a translation into the common tongue down here. Now down here we get additional details of this song. Is there an accompaniment? In this case, no. So this tells us this is a cappella, no accompaniment. It's a very long lullaby, but it's popular. It's very new, so this gives you some interesting history. This song is 0 years old. In other words, it's been around not long at all, and yet it's very popular. So a GM might use this as a storytelling piece for the culture, and maybe even a little bit of history for who the priestess that this song sings about was and how their history came to light. Like a DM could easily take these few facts and create some interesting culture and history here. It's in the common tongue, as we discussed. It's a very simple song, which makes sense given that it's a lullaby, and it's slow, which makes sense given that it's a lullaby. So this just gives you some basic information on what this song is, and then the DM or the musically inclined character can take this information and expand on it as much as they want to. So having looked at that, let's take a look at the settings. So up here in the settings, we have the song type, and this is where you can decide if it's vocal, instrumental, or random. Vocal songs may sometimes have an accompaniment, but instrumental songs will never have a vocal accompaniment. You can set the language to either being common, in which case it'll always be as we saw with the Priestess song. You can set it to general, in which case it will use much more common languages, which I will show you more about that in the second half of the video. Or you can set the language to exotic, which is going to use much more rare languages. Or you can set it to random, in which case it'll be random. In this example, the language is infernal, and so this is the song in its infernal title, and then this is the translation in common. You can set the complexity of the song to be novice, moderate, difficult, masterful, or random. This might be interesting for storytelling. It might also be interesting for the sake of your bard character who uses music and maybe a higher level spell requires a more complex song. You can turn accompaniment on, off, or random. Again, that's just going to apply to vocal songs. You can set the age of the song to be general, specific, or random. So for age in general, we just talk about the era. In this case, this song is from a forgotten era, which might mean thousands of years ago. But that's very general. If you wanted to get specific, in this case it tells you this song is 185 years old. So specific gives you years, general gives you range. For tempo display, you can set it to simple, or you can set it to precise. Now, I am not musically inclined or musically gifted. My experience with music ended in junior high school. And so that's where we get down here into the tempo, where this just says it's very fast. But if you are musically inclined and you know a lot about music, you can set this to precise and you get the appropriate terms for the exact type of tempo that this song might be using. In this case, allegretto. I honestly don't even know what that means, but it's there if you do. For me, I will always keep it simple. You can set it to random if you would like. Now you can turn the song name off. This was one area that my wife and I weren't really sure. We kind of disagreed on whether the song should be given a name or not. One of us thought it should have a name, one of us thought it shouldn't, because when you give something a name, it can give it a connotation and so forth and so on. So you have the option to turn the name off if you don't want to have the song name. And then lastly, you can determine how many songs you want to generate, between 1 and 5 or random. And that's it. That's the song generator. Let's generate 5. And if you'd like to pause my video so that you can take a look at these and see some of the different examples, you totally can. Now you may notice that some of these, especially on the instrumentals, have a link and it will take you to a YouTube video. You will see these links for the instrumental songs. All of the instruments that I have linked in this generator have a link to a YouTube video, giving an idea of what that instrument might sound like in a cool solo version. The only reason I did that was because some of these, like a Zolkun, I didn't know what a Zolkun is, and so I thought it would be helpful if I gave some of these instruments links to YouTube videos that either the DM or the player could use to get an idea of maybe what that instrument might sound like. Especially in D&D 5e, there are some of the instruments in that list that I'm not even sure are real, and therefore it was really hard for me as a DM to describe what that instrument sounds like if it's not even a real instrument. And so on a couple of the instruments from the D&D 5e list, I just replaced them and just said, you know what, this is no longer that, this is this. I think one of them was a hurdy-gurdy. The hurdy-gurdy isn't in the D&D 5e list of instruments, but it abso-frickin-lutely should be, because it's an old instrument, definitely would have been around in that medievally time period, and it's also a super cool instrument and it deserves to be in the list. So that's it for the results. If we scroll down, let's take a look at the songbook, what I'm calling the storage system for this generator. All of my generators have a storage system, and that's because it's really difficult or dangerous to try to just keep things right here, just sitting here in the generator, because these are all dynamic cells. And a dynamic cell will refresh anytime anything changes anywhere in the generator. So for example, if I just click over here and hit the delete key, all I have to do is hit one key and all of those songs refresh and regenerate, which if you want to save the list, makes it really difficult to save it. And so that's what the songbook is for. You'll come over here, hit the expansion button, and you'll notice you have these 5 blank areas where you can save the songs. So you'll just come up to the results, you'll copy however many of the songs you want to save, just hit copy, come down, right click, paste special, values only. And now you have those 5 songs saved there, and watch as I hit the delete key. Nothing's changing. Meanwhile up here, everything's changing. And so that's where the storage system exists. It gives you a place to save your stuff without it being lost, with the dynamic cells refreshing themselves. You do have a stack tracker right here. So this is one stack where you've pasted these 5 songs. And so it's letting you know, hey, stack 1 has 0 openings. But if I were to delete one of them, you'll notice that it says it has 1 opening and 2 openings and so forth. So the idea is you can collapse this. You haven't lost anything, it's all still there. But with it all collapsed, you can look and see where you do have available openings. And then what you can do is you can come in here and give it a title and some notes. So like if you're the player, you might title this for your cantrip songs, and then this one might be your first level songs and your second level songs or whatever. If you're a DM, this might be the songs of the Tabaxi Bard that your players met in a certain town, and so you put that information in here to remind yourself what those are, and now you can come back and look at them anytime you want to. And that's it for the basic functionality of the song generator. This isn't my only generator, by the way. I have dozens of others that I think you'll find interesting. This table shows all the generators that I've created and which of them, at the time of publishing this video, have video tutorials like this one. All of my generators will have tutorial videos here soon. All of my random generators are available for purchase on buymeacoffee.com for just a couple bucks. Links are in the description. If you're enjoying this video, now would be a great time to share it with other gamers. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me out. Let's now get into the customization of this generator. It's customization that sets my random generators apart from all the others. If you're a widely experienced GM, this probably isn't your first random generator that you've ever toyed around with, but it will probably be your last, because no other tool that you've used has allowed you to customize the code and the master lists so that you can personally craft your own spectrum of results. So let me now show you how to customize this generator. Every one of my generators has a reference tab. So if you come down here to the bottom, you hit the reference tab, and you'll notice there are 3 sections where you can customize the function of this generator. Let's expand the songs section. You'll notice we have a list for the different genres of songs. You can add or remove to this list however you want to. You can add as many items in this list as you want, down to infinity, really, down to 10,000 or whatever you want to do. And you can also remove from this list, so maybe you don't want there to be any blues songs that are generated, you can just delete that as well. However, you don't want to just delete out of the middle of a list and leave a hole in the middle of the list, because that can ruin the functionality of the generator. So the better thing to do would be to right-click, delete cells, shift cells up. And now you don't have that hole, but now the blues song is gone. So that is how you're going to remove things that are in the middle of a list, and then you can just add your own things at the bottom of the list as your heart desires. And it's in this way that you can personally craft the types or genres of songs, the descriptions of those songs, the original instruments, and the descriptions for those instruments. You can add all of those with the exact principles I just showed you here. And whatever you have in these columns are open to be generated over here in the results. If you don't want to have the active links, all you have to do is click on the cell and click this little button that says remove link, and then that will go away. So that's it for the songs. Let's open up the other settings. So this setting is where you determine the odds of the song being a vocal song when random is selected. So if we come back over here to song type, vocal, instrumental, or random, if it's set to random, what are the odds it will be vocal? 65%, but you can change this number. As long as it's a number between 0 and 100%, it should work just fine. You have 3 different odds tables here that will affect various things. So you have your song length odds. What are the odds that your song is short, average, long, or very long? Those are those odds. You can change these percentages however you want. Just make sure they all add up to 100%. You have the song fame odds. Those are the 4 levels of fame and their percentages. Again, you can change those. Scrolling down a little bit, you have the age odds, the different ages that it might be from, and what the percentages are for that. And that's if the age is set to general, but if the age is set to specific, then you're going to get a random number generated between these 2, or these 2, or these 2, or these 2. So if the song is of the modern era, it will generate a year between 15 and 200. It'll pick a random number between 15 and 200, and then it will say, this song is 105 years old, because it randomly generated 105. But you can change these numbers in here however you would like to. Just make sure that the minimums are equal to or less than the maximums. Ignore these sections in here. You don't need to do anything about those. And then you have the complexity odds. What are the odds of the song being a certain level of complexity? You can change those percentages however you want to, as long as they equal 100% when they're done. Now for the languages of the song, here are the general languages. Here are the exotic languages. You can add or remove to these lists however you'd like. And then you have 2 other settings right here. So what are the odds of the language being general? Right now it's set to 90%. So 90% of the time the language will come out of this column. You can change that though. As long as this number remains between 0 and 100%, you're good. And then this one is, what are the odds of the language being common when it is general? So in other words, right now the way it's set up is there's a 90% chance that it will be general, and then there's a 60% chance that it will be common, which means there's a 90% chance that it will be general, and then a 40% chance that it will be one of these besides common. And so you can tweak that. If you want common to be less common, then just lower this percentage. If you want common to be more common, then raise this percentage. Scrolling to the right a little bit, you have 2 more odds tables. You have the tempo odds when the tempo is set to simple. That was right here, simple or precise, right? And so these are the various simple tempos and the odds percentage for that. And then you have the list of precise tempos and the various odds for those. And by the way, this is the source that I got this list from. If you're wondering where that came from, that's what that is. And so you can tweak these odds as well. Again, make sure it adds up to 100%. And moving on to the last section, which is the song names section. You have your exotic names, which again, remember, were the fancy names that were not real words or terms. Where do those come from? They are created from randomly assembling one item from each of these columns. We have our first, second, third sounds, and then a conjunction. And you'll notice this list goes on for a little ways, and it will pick one random item from this column add it to one random item from that column and that column and that column, and thus creating some of these different exotic names. If you look over here, you can see 7 potential formulas for how these 4 columns are used based upon what random number is generated in here. Now, nothing's generating there because the generator's off. If I turn it back on, you can look over here and say that the first one is number 7, which means it's going to take something from the first column and something from the second column, put it together, and that's where we got Lynn Bell. If we looked in this column, we'd find Lynn in there somewhere. We look in this column, we'll find Bell in there somewhere, and that's how we got Lynn Bell, because it's something from the first column plus something from the second column. But if we look at the second result, which is 5, it's the first and the second with a space, and then a conjunction and a third. And so it's just, you've got 7 different formulas here. You don't need to worry about tweaking any of that, but just understand that that's what these 4 columns are doing. And so anything you want to add to or remove from these columns, understand that they are going to be put together in these formulas. Moving over here, we have more mundane names, your common names or your translations. You'll get an adjective, you'll get a noun, and they will be put together in 4 potential formulas: adjective noun, just the noun, noun adjective, or the noun of the noun. And so those are there, again, randomly generated. Do not edit anything in column W here with these numbers. Those are all randomly generated, don't change those. But again, you can add or remove to this master list however you want to, understanding that they will be put together in one of these 4 functions or formulas. So summarizing this section, you have these 6 columns, add or remove to these 6 columns however you want. And that's it for the song generator. Like I said, it's a pretty simple one. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, I have dozens of other generators, so be sure to check them out here on YouTube or at buymeacoffee.com. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and happy gaming!